Hello, and welcome to this Sprint 1 demo of the Stanford Library's Access and Discovery Team's Spring 2022 Workcycle on the Digital Library of the Middle East. My name is Chris Beer, and I'm serving as the tech lead for this project, and I may be joined today by our development team. In the DLME project, we're building an application that serves the research needs of students, teachers, and others by aggregating Middle East and North African cultural heritage material held by many institutions and enabling cross-collection search of those items. While previous work cycles on the DLME application have focused on features and building out the site, during this work cycle, we will have an overall focus on improving the stability and usability of the application. In the year or so since the team last focused on the DLME application, we've had several new developers join the team, and the work we accomplished during this sprint has really been focused on onboarding them, figuring out good development practices for the application, and gaining confidence in our ability to work effectively. The fresh perspective of our new developers has really been a great help in making significant improvements to the development process and addressing some technical debt that made it difficult to work on the code. To start us off, I'll turn it over to Nick to talk about some of the onboarding we've done and some of those improvements.
As Chris mentioned, our team onboarded 3 new members within the past 4 months, all of whom were newcomers to this project. So we started this work cycle with a focus on documentation. Unlike the rest of our team's portfolio, this application is both developed and deployed using the Docker containerization engine. Docker offers a tool called Docker Compose for managing complex tech stacks involving several interrelated services, which allows us to mimic the production environment for this app. As part of this sprint, we added new documentation to the README on getting set up with Compose, including sections on common tasks like recreating the database and developing with local copies of upstream Ruby gems. We also tried out a Docker feature called build targets to centralize the build step for the application in a single Docker file. The app has 2 different services that are built this way, the main web application and a background worker. And each of these services has a production and a development build for a total of 4 build targets. Previously, each service had its own Docker file. Docker build targets allow us to make sure that only the desired dependencies and environment make it into each build while keeping everything maintainable in a single Docker file. This application's production environment is hosted in the cloud via the Amazon Web Services Elastic Container Service, or ECS, which is another distinguishing factor among other Access Team projects. The Amazon platform that we're using is called Fargate, and it's a managed serverless environment for running Docker containers. This removes the need to provision infrastructure for running the containers, but also makes it difficult to get access to the live version of the application to inspect its state and debug problems as they occur. In collaboration with the operations team, we enabled Amazon's ECS exec feature, which allows developers to safely obtain direct shell access to the running containers. The README now includes a section on setting up the ECS exec feature for developers and using it for debugging. This successful cross-team collaboration paves the way for increased observability of other SUL applications that are also deployed to the Amazon ECS cloud, like the Sinopia project.
Hi, I'm Camille Villa. I'm also a developer on the Access team. Another feature that we spent some time onboarding folks onto is our translation workflow for the Digital Library of the Middle East website. So you can see the website here in English, and this is the Arabic version of the site. And you may also notice that the interface has changed to right to left. So there are various steps involved in translating Spotlight sites. And so here I'm showing the Spotlight curator-facing interface for translation. While there is an interface in Spotlight, our translation partners at Qatar National Library use Transifex, which is part of their translation workflow. So what this allows a translation team to do is see resources from not just the DLME website, but the various upstream open source gems that are also contributing to the DLME interface. So we can gather these resources in one place. This involves various forms of manual importing and automatic push and pull of information from GitHub, which we have documented here in our integration guide.
Thanks, Camille. In addition to improving the developer experience, we've also made some changes to how and what we deploy. For DLME, we're using a continuous deployment pipeline so that any changes we make to the code are quickly deployed to our development environments for review. During this sprint, we've made some progress to clarify and consolidate the pipeline code to make sure we can easily tell what's happening, what's going where, and the differences between our 4 environments. One handy change that we've made in this sprint is we're adding some version control information into the images we're creating, so now we can tell when and how an image was built. We also expose this information in a developer-facing status page that we can use for debugging so we can easily see what's deployed. Another bit of developer tooling we've added this sprint is a feature that allows us to quickly clear the application cache. DLME uses aggressive caching in order to provide good performance, especially on some of the data-intensive pages, but that can result in stale data and display. With this API, we can now manually clean the cache directly from the application and see any of the changes we've made immediately. Finally, I'm going to turn it over to Corey and Marlo to talk about some of the UI tweaks we've been making to fix bugs or improve the site.
I'm Corey Lown. I'm a developer on the Access team, and I'm going to describe and show a number of improvements and changes we've made to the user interface during this work cycle. The first change we've made is an improved design of the form that people can use to subscribe to receive announcements and updates from Digital Library of the Middle East. The next changes we've made include a number of improvements and fixes to the contributors page. The first change we've made is to make sure that when you click on a link for a contributor, you only see results for that contributor. And now if you click on the Brooklyn Museum, you'll see those 8,388 items in the results page. Similarly, and on the same page, we've fixed an issue to ensure that when you click on a link for a language, you see results only for that language. Also on the contributor page, we've updated the way that the item type browse table is generated to ensure that the item counts on the contributor page match the counts that you see when you click through to browse by an item's type. For example, the item type browse list shows that there are 1,478 drawings. If you click to search for those drawings, the results page also shows the same number of items, 1,478. Another change we've made this work cycle is that we've configured some additional facets to be available for curators to configure to display. These facets appear in the curator's administrative view and can be configured by curators to appear in the public UI if needed.
I'm Marlo. I'm a developer on the Access team, and I'm going to go over a few user interface improvements that we made during this sprint. The first change I want to point out is part of the faceting UI, specifically about hierarchical facet items. Previously, for these expand and collapse icons, we were using a Unicode character that users had trouble understanding was an actionable click item. So we changed the icons to plus and minus signs, which we're now loading as SVGs from the Font Awesome free icon library. Another UI improvement we made this sprint was a small issue with line height mismatch, where lines were being cut off above the More button in the gallery view. So we were able to fix that with a CSS improvement, and the lines are now free of error. And the last UI improvement I want to point out has to do with the usability of the slideshow modal. We made code changes to increase the size of icons in the modal, and also improved the ability to navigate forward and backward through the slideshow by extending the linkable area to be the full vertical area of the edge of the modal.
That's it for this demo. Thanks to the team for their hard work during this sprint.